Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for coming and joining us tonight for our third Storyteller series with Rich 2. I'm Nathan Fox. I'm the chair of the MFA Visual Narrative Program here at the School of Visual Arts. Thank you. And we happen to have an amazing partnership throughout the school with all departments, but I'm really excited to have you guys here and be in this space. This is Caitlin Kilgallen, the director of the SVA Library, and we are working in conjunction and partnership to bring you guys this Storyteller series in this fabulous new space. So please give it up and a round of applause for Caitlin and the library. Do you have any words to say? Okay, fine. The MFA Visual Narrative Program is a low residency in visual storytelling across media, with an equal emphasis on creative writing and the visual arts. So we are a total storytelling program that puts story first. 3 summers in New York and then 2 academic years online. And as a storytelling program, it's really great to kind of offer this, the first launch this year of the Storyteller series, and especially tonight, Rich 2 is no exception for the evolution of a storyteller to reach new heights, which I'm sure you guys will definitely see shortly. A few things first, we got some housekeeping. Since we are a low residency program, all of our students are here this summer. And we have quite a few things left throughout the rest of the year I just wanted to make you guys aware of real quick. The thesis show, this year's 2018 graduates, their exhibition is happening now through the 21st. We have gallery guides here if you guys would like to pick one up on the way out. And the reception is going to be held on the 20th, and you guys are all welcome from 6 to 8 if you'd like to come to the reception, see the work, meet the students, screen a few films, interact with some great stories. The thesis presentations, live thesis presentations, will be July 17th. We can come hear from the students about how their stories came about, their experience and their development as storytellers. And for anybody interested in the program or just wanting more information, every summer we have an info session, which will happen July 26th. And there's a sign up over here as well if you're interested in that. And on the 27th is going to be our open studio end of summer exhibition for the first and second year students, which will be a fabulous bash coming up a week from the reception for the thesis show at the end of the month. So please feel free to come to that as well. And anybody interested in CE classes, the Rezo Lab, anything story related that we might be engaged in or you might be interested in, please keep your eye out. The CE classes will be out shortly. Storyteller series invites visual storytellers from all walks of life, careers in media to share their work, professional practice, personal development, and creative approach to visual narrative. This series is presented by, obviously, the MFA Visual Narrative Program at the School of Visual Arts, along with the library, in order to bring you storytellers across all media. And it'll continue this fall and hopefully through the spring and be an annual installment here at SVA. So if you don't know anything about us, again, there's a sign-up sheet over here if you'd like to receive information and the rest of the schedule. Stay tuned to SVA and any emails or newsletters you might be privy to. Tonight, definitely delighted to have Rich 2 here. He is a graduate from our alma mater, the MFA Illustration as Visual Essay program here at SVA. And Rich is currently the VP of Design at MTV. He graduated from the MFAI program here. And received the Young Guns Award from the Art Directors Club. He has exhibited at galleries and festivals in New York, Los Angeles, Berlin. I totally want to hear some stories about Berlin. As well as the Scope Miami Festival during Art Basel week there. Commercially, his clients include more than this, but these are pretty fantastic. The New York Times, The New Yorker, Business Week, Alfa Romeo, Bombay Sapphire, G-Shock, Nike, which we'll hopefully hear more about this evening. Awesome. Converse, American Express, NPR, North Face, Purple Label, Coca-Cola, Verizon, Skype, Fuse TV. I could keep going. and there's so many others. But right now, please give a warm welcome to the man himself, Rich Tu.
Thanks.
Grab the microphone.
Grab the microphone, got it.
Oh no, you got your microphone.
Oh, yep, I'm all mic'd up.
Your mic.
Great, cool. Hey everyone, how's it going? Sorry to disappoint you, Nathan. But the Germany story doesn't exist because they exhibited without me there, but that's okay. I can still talk about other stuff. So thank you very much for having me, guys. Like Nathan said, I'm also a graduate of SVA from the MFA Illustrations Visual Essay Program under Marshall Erisman, which also Nathan was from as well. And it's really an honor to be here speaking to you guys. So let's get it started. So my talk is called Art of the Pivot. And pivot, from a definition perspective, is the central point on which a mechanism turns. And the reason why this word is so important to me is that my career has been really defined by a lot of the moves that I've made and a lot of the variety that I like to bring to my own life as well as my own work. So when I think of pivot, I think of the point at which you make a turn, whether it's left or right or something totally different. And hopefully you'll see some really good pivots. Hi, I'm Rich Tu. So I was trained classically as an illustrator, again, from the MFA program. And this is a little sampling of some of my work, a very small sampling. Here's some NPR stuff, which I'll talk about later. I also do some mural work. This is a mural I did for a freshman class for XXL. Also, there's a big restaurant mural. Here is some work I did for the Tupac musical from a couple years ago. Also work a lot within the editorial space. Very much feel that my work lives in a youth culture space. It's very colorful and vibrant, and I do lean specifically into pop culture. There's some work for XXL, which we'll talk about later. Also worked, currently I work at MTV, but also I have a history within Broadway as well, doing a lot of entertainment posters, a lot of entertainment branding, which also requires a lot of variety and pivots. There's also some animation work, some film work as well. Also some Nike work, which I'll get into in a little bit. But for the most part, I just like to see brains explode. So in the beginning, let me just start all the way back. I'm from New Jersey originally. I did this talk in China, FYI, so that's why there's the Empire State Building when I'm talking about New Jersey. But I'm just right over the bridge. And I grew up as a comic book nerd. And essentially, I spent a lot of my upbringing in comic book shops. And my dad was a big card collector, like pretty much any type of card, sports cards, baseball, basketball, such and such. So we spent a lot of time in hobby shops. And what that really did was it informed my life in terms of my pop culture sensibilities, a lot of the color palettes, and also a lot of like my pop culture sensibilities moving forward. And it just so happens that right now we're in a moment where comic book culture has elevated to this point. Also, I grew up, I was kind of raised by Blockbuster Video. I know that sounds really weird right now in 2018, but I was very much that kid where I would look at VHS box covers for hours. I was kind of that weird little kid walking around a Blockbuster, and everyone would think, who is this little boy here? And then I would always have like at least 2 or 3 tapes under my arm, and this is all the stuff that would like kind of stick with me as I was kind of developing. And also I was a big hip hop head. Pretty much it's all I listened to growing up. I mean, of course I diversified myself afterwards, but this is, it informed a lot of my upbringing. All right, so in the beginning, so this is the first piece of work that I was ever paid money for. I like to show this. It's from 2006. It was for a small shop in New Jersey. It's called Ambe Shop. And what this is a 5-poster series for this small company called JB Classics. They were a sneaker company out in the West Coast, and they wanted to do an activation in this shop in my town. And I like to show this work because at the time I had no experience. I just barely knew how to use Photoshop. My only connections in terms of like even producing my own work were going to FedEx or going to a Kinko's and printing everything out really big. Small notable fact was that at this streetwear shop, SZA would hang out there a lot because she's from New Jersey. She's from Maplewood. So a lot of times Solana would just be there hanging out. She went to Columbia High School. And so for the shop, I pitched to them the idea of how about promoting for this show with a poster series, and every day you just bring out a new poster every day. It would complete a sentence. So this is very pixelated because that's how old the photo is. But it's a JB Classics at Ambe logo, which is that, and then that's the date, 6/25/06, and then the name of the presentation was Bleeding Souls at 10 Sloane Street. There's a hamburger shop there now. This is the first piece of published work that I ever had, also in 2006. It was a busy summer for me, making no money, but still making a lot of work. So back in the day, at that time, Shepard Fairey had a magazine called Swindle Magazine. I don't know if you guys remember that. But it was kind of a streetwear, hip-hop lifestyle, fashion, sensible magazine. And they didn't pay a lot of money, but they took open submissions. I sent a lot of loose emails out into the world, also to The Believer and a lot of these magazines that were like indie. And Swindle was one of the few ones that got back to me. And they gave me a 4-page spread. This is the opening spread for ATSAC. And what ATSAC is, it's the Automated Traffic System something control. And it controls the LA traffic system because Swindle's based out in LA. And this was a real important learning experience for me in terms of dealing with an outside client, as well as dealing with expectations of deadlines, and also doing something that related to the world of pop culture, because at the time, not a lot of people knew who Banksy was, but then the cover of the issue ended up being a Banksy cover. And then it also became one of the top 10 magazine covers of the year, so it kind of gave the issue some heat. So I had something that I could wrap my portfolio around and say that I had hit some highlights. And also in that same summer, Stephen Heller was still with the New York Times. And Stephen Heller is an amazing figure, and also he's a chairman here at a SVA design program. And I was very enamored by him and his prolificness, as well as his ability to be a harbinger, as well as like a welcomer to the creative industry. So if you got his cosign, then there's a lot of validity to your abilities. So this is my first real portfolio review, again in 2006, same summer. And then back then, you could just get a list of all the art directors at the New York Times, and Stephen Heller's name was there. And I gave him a cold call, and I said, hey, my name is Rich Tu, I'm an illustrator, can I show you my work, right? And he says, sure, show up such and such a day, and I'll meet you. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy, because I didn't even have a website, I had nothing. And I was like, I could just roll up with like, you know, a flaming bag of hot shit. Like I could have been an anybody. So he goes through my portfolio. It's a physical portfolio. And then he's just like, you know, page after page after page. Just like kind of semi-reacting. Sees a couple of pieces that have this type of aesthetic. And he says, this is pretty good. And then kind of ignores everything else, right? So he kind of shoos me off, but he says, hey, Rich, leave your email address. If something comes my way, I'll let you know. So the next day he calls me, or he sends me an email rather, sorry. He sends me an email, and he has 2 illustrations. And this one to the left is, they're 2 spot illustrations, by the way, in the book review. They're about this big. This illustration here is for The Last Town on Earth. It's about a group of stories about people who that had died in the age of cholera at the turn of the century. It was kind of a bummer, right? And then this one was about, it was called Severance Stories, and that was a collection of stories about people who died by decapitation, right? And I was like, this is cool. And I had no process at the time. I was still kind of working through what my skill set was, my abilities specifically within the world of Photoshop. And the due date was the date of my sister's wedding, right? So the day of my sister's wedding, I email everything to Steven, and also he didn't need sketches at that time. So that was kind of trippy for me. Because afterwards, like, everyone wants sketches and everyone wants to see everything before you're even, submitting anything. So he's cool with it. It's about 8 a.m. at the time. And then I go to my sister's wedding. I put on my tuxedo, I go to the wedding. And then after I land in the limo, after the ceremony, I just fall asleep. I remember nothing else of the day. All right? So not only my sister got married, but also I got my first piece in the New York Times the same day. All right, so now I'm just going to breeze through some images, and overall, this presentation is just going to be like candy, candy, candy. All right, so this helped me develop a relationship with the New York Times, with Nicholas Bleckman after Steven Heller, which was kind of amazing that I was able to slide in at the time. This is for a story about a scientist that wanted to go back into the Amazon. This is about the mafia and bringing it down. This was for the op-ed. About an oil spill, very small spot illustration, but I just like the graphic power of it. This was for a book called The Tourist, which ended up being a kind of terrible movie with Johnny Depp. This was about Russia's Summer of Idealism, which was a summer where Russia was very much into, there were small uprisings that summer that were all related to social justice. This story is about gender labeling through Facebook. And then this also helped me open up the door for The New Yorker. It was another dream of mine to be in The New Yorker. And this story was with a short story by Jennifer Egan. It was an intro to the book Visit from the Goon Squad, which ended up winning a Pulitzer Prize. And this is back in 2009. A little bit after I graduated from the MFA program at SVA. This is for a story called Blue Roses, which is about two elderly Asian women that were trying to rebuild the bridge that had fallen between them. And at this time, I was very much, I was kind of designing through illustration, where a lot of these pieces were just very small files and small layers within Photoshop. Like if you saw my file, you'd see that this doorknob is its own thing, that fingernail is its own thing, this purse is its own thing. Like I was very much a perfectionist in my line work and a perfectionist with all my pieces within my work because I was always a pixel pusher, just something about me. I've since loosened up, but at the time I was still sorting it all out. So this work here is still very early, back in 2008, 2009. At the time, I was, again, discovering my process, but also kind of questioning everything that made me who I was, maybe who I am, and also kind of led into my creative ability. And this is a piece called Let There Be Stuff. And I was born Christian. I was born Catholic. And I was wrestling with a lot of those thoughts, and what it meant to be who I was at the time. So this is my thesis here at SVA, and it's about like a godlike figure living in a solo apartment, not unlike my dorm here at SVA, that wanted to just let there be stuff, that wanted to give birth to things, right? And so I was dealing with typography and also kind of playing with other forms that were apart from typical illustration. And then like making of the people, and then what happens when there's strife among the people, more strife. And then does God care? So I was trying to answer big questions, and I was asking big questions, and it was really a meditation on who I was, where I was going, and what could be. All right, so leaning into that, I'm a big proponent of personal work as well. And a lot of this is personal. I like to bring in my own personality into almost everything I do. But I just want to show you a series of images a little bit after SVA. It's called You're My Favorite. And I wanted to do imagery that were meditations on very personal moments, using a style that was a little bit time intensive. So the method of it will be very meditative as well. And then the moments would be personal and also a little quiet. So I'll just breeze through these. So, why am I seeing a Michael Jordan logo right now? So from the You're My Favorite series, which I would just do once a month, maybe, right? I was putting it out into the world, and occasionally, and this kind of proved throughout my entire career, where if I start putting things out into the world, then people start wanting to, potentially use that in some way. So I put out this series, You're My Favorite, which is quiet and meditative, right? And I get a random call from a really great agency called Doubleday and Cartwright. They're right in Brooklyn, and they're really cool, doing a really amazing work. And they say, hey, Rich, Michael Jordan's about to turn 50. He's about to turn 50 years old. The All-Star Games in Houston this year, and we're going to throw a big birthday party for Michael Jordan. We're going to get 50 artists in this little library space inside wherever they're having his birthday party, and we're going to focus on 50 great moments in Michael Jordan's life. So they're like, we love the You're My Favorite stuff. Can you do that for us? So the moment that they wanted to utilize was the moment where he won his second NCAA championship, and then the coach of North Carolina cuts the net down. And the coach's name escapes me right now. But the reason I like to show personal work right into this is that I believe that injecting oneself into one's work leads to more interesting professional work. And I believe it since day one, and it's still hung true for me today. That's the space. Craig and Carl to the right. And also that led into work with NPR as well. And NPR of National Public Radio, like one of the great public bastions of liberal thought, as well as just being very aware in the world. And they wanted to reach out as well, having seen all that work, and they put out a calendar every year where they use their favorite illustrators for the year, and I was very fortunate to get the cover based on the previous work that you just saw. So the reason I like to show this is to show that, again, I'm a little bit of a control freak, but I loved at this point the idea of combining illustrative forms and typographic forms and seeing how I could push that from a composition level, a color level, as well as a skill set level. Just to give you some insight into the way that this thing's made, every one of these flowers is its own separate file in Photoshop. Like every one of these little lines is drawn. This probably took me about a month and a half to make. I would be at work during the day at Bravo TV, and for full transparency, I was doing a rebrand of BravoTV.com at 30 Rock at the time in 2014. Oh no, 2013, because this is for 2014. And then I would come home at the end of the day, slightly frustrated because sometimes work in life is frustrating. And then I would just meditate and just work in my little NPR Photoshop file. And just to show you where that just started at this level of sketch. And then it goes there. And within that same style as well, this is work for Converse. They wanted to do a t-shirt series. And this is, again, just level, like where I take my sketches, where I take my storytelling, and the level of detail. So it kind of took me a long time for me to start to hone in on my steps and the way that I could deliver the promise of a final product, as well as the way I could sell what I knew I was capable of. Because sometimes you'll see people like overpitch the idea or overpitch something where you start thinking, can you really deliver the thing that you just tried to tell me you can deliver? But for me, it's taken me a few years to really hone that in so I don't overpitch. I almost sometimes undersell what the abilities are with the promise of, I could show you this, or I could show you something like this starting here. And for this, I could show you work that has happened, and then of course I could take it here, right? And this idea was based on the idea of the gig. They wanted to do a capsule series of T-shirts for based on like a rock band thought. So the left is like kind of a punk rock microphone, and to the right is a guitar pick hand, disembodied because I like weird stuff. There's a very recent piece that I did for Stanford Medicine. Even though I'm still very kind of, eyeball deep in work constantly, I still like to take commissions just to, honestly, helps me relax. Work helps me relax. I'm technically on vacation this week, but I was like, let me do work this week like this. So for Stanford Medicine, which just came out this spring, they wanted to do an issue about hearing. And for me now, my process is such that I feel very confident in my ability to just sketch quickly. So these are my sketches, actually. And then for the interior spread, these are just more sketches. Like now, I'm kind of playing in a world of compositions, or bold composition, but starkness, bold colors. But how trippy do I want to get, essentially? So if the idea is for this, how do we hear? This is and also just for full transparency as well, I had a popped eardrum at the time, so I was really thinking about hearing. So I was commissioned to do this piece on hearing, and also I had a broken eardrum. So it was like it was so on my brain. I was like, this could not be any more perfect. And then this idea was about how do we hear, our ears, the things that we feel, and how do we layer that feeling upon itself. This is about, again, hearing through our own perception. So if you ever see those, the name is escaping me right now, but in the 60s and 70s, there was that artist that would draw the eyeballs that were really big. It was like one big head with eyeballs. And it was about the way that we perceive our own heads, right? So this, for me, was about the way we perceive our own ears. Then that's the final cover. So it's not too far from the actual sketch, which is here. Stanford Medicine's only note was, can the hairs not look like hairs coming out of their ear? And I was like, no, it's about hearing and the energy of sound, but really it was about hair in your ear. And then this was about, this was the interior illustration. And I kind of just wanted to make something cool, to be honest. I just want something really weird and trippy, and I kind of sold them on it. Then that's the cover. That's the interior. This is a series that I did. These are big pieces. I just wanted to do something like quiet and meditative, but like fairly large scale. This is a triptych, currently hanging in the Sunday afternoon office downtown, which is the company that reps me as well for my side work. every line individually drawn. Again, it's just an exercise for me in exercising as well as exorcising the creative demons that I have, you know. So I think a lot about like the physical form as well as points of action, points of rest, and the complexities in between. So I want people to absorb this, but you know, understand that it's not about answering anything. It's not even about really asking anything. It's more about just absorbing energy. There's another small series also based within that lineage of work where I just wanted to show, honestly, I just wanted to show my capabilities past the intricate line work. So a couple of years ago, and I'll get more into this further in my presentation, I started working at Nike and I moved to Oregon, right? And then I had this big fear about 3 or 4 years ago that if I leave New York and I move to Oregon and I work for Nike, would New York forget me? And it was really a big thought for me. And then I decided that I would, every day while I was in Oregon, I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning and then I would do an exercise. Like I would literally set my alarm, get up, and then I would go to my computer and I would give myself an hour, hour and a half tops in order to create something visual and interesting. So all of these have been executed within an hour, hour and a half. And it was a really good exercise in terms of sharpening the instrument as well as expanding what my toolkit was. Big mouth. I just wanted to kind of push things like kind of in a skate world or a fashion world, in a streetwear world, just make big, bold graphics. Again, not answering questions and also not really seeking to ask anything. I just wanted to just push. If it was something in my mind or something that was spurring on my creativity that day, I just wanted to take it there. And then I go to work and I'd have a full day of work. All right, so now I just want to go through a lot of the commercial spaces that I've been in after you've seen a lot of personal work and personally driven work. So I do a lot of editorial work, as you've just seen, but I spent a good amount of time really cutting my teeth on a magazine named Slam Magazine. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, if you follow basketball at all, but I worked with them for about 7 years, right? The great thing with Slam was that, and is that, they're willing to let you do anything. It was kind of like zine making every month. And again, for me, like again, to take it back to the pivot, like, and building the skill set and being able to make new turns every single time that you need to make a turn. For me, like the challenge of being asked to do something new and not repeat yourself has always been something interesting to me. So Slam kind of gave me that opportunity where every day or every week I would have another spread, thanks to Melissa Medvedich, who was the creative director there as well for XXL, and she would just let me play. And I really encourage especially on a student level, the willingness to play, but also the willingness to play in order to build your capabilities. And I would experiment with typography. I would experiment with color. And also, this also helped me build my abilities within InDesign, within Illustrator, within Photoshop. And then I would be able to combine all the pieces and then get it out, and then you'd see it on the newsstand. There's a cover I did for Kyrie Irving, who's currently with the Boston Celtics. And Atiba Jefferson shot this. This is a cover for John Wall, also Atiba Jefferson, the photographer. For stuff like this, you know, it's all typography, doing things in the way that is my pop culture lens. And then these are just a range of graphics, illustrations, logos, just to show a variety of the stuff that I would try to push myself into. So one of the big opportunities in my life was doing a cover for XXL, Like I said earlier in my presentation, I love hip hop, and it was kind of one of the big informers of my life and my sensibilities. So again, Melissa Medvedich, thank you to her. She was a creative director at Double XL, and she was like, "Hey, Rich, you want to do the cover for the freshman class in 2015?" And I was like, "Hell yes! How do I get involved immediately?" And Tom Medvedich was the photographer here. And the way that this came about was they take all these young rappers, right? Essentially young millionaires, or on the verge of being young millionaires. And then imagine like the energy and also the ego that's in that room, right? They put them in a room, and then they make them sit down, which is hard enough to even organize, like that energy there. And then they go through singles, and then they land in this space where they do the group shots. So you see all the personalities here. So you have Fetty Wap, you have Dej Loaf, you have Rory, you have Kid, you have Gold Link, you have Vince Staples over here who's doing really great stuff right now. Then you have the individual shots where they show all the personality. Again, the photographer on this is Tom Medvedich. Fetty Wap, Dej Loaf, Vince Staples, Rory. And for me, again, I just wanted to constantly do something different and like not have any spread feel like the last spread and just keep pushing things. And this was about 2 months of development. So for Gold Link, I was like, oh, he feels like an intellectual dude. Maybe I do a torn paper, like a notebook thing. And then Tink felt like Tink was out of Chicago, and she was the protege of Timbaland. So she felt like she was part of a lineage. So I wanted to somehow indicate that she was like a bigger force. And then Shy Glizzy just had that vibe of like, he was just chill. And also, speaking of Kenzo, I was looking a lot at Kenzo at the time and a lot of the colors and the vibrancy that they were bringing to the table. OG Mako, Kid, and Kid was part of G-Unit at the time. Then also, I wanted to do a mural because in order to get them all into the space, they have to, like, the way they set up a day like this, right? They have several rooms in a multi-tiered event space. So in the place where they do the singles and where they do a lot of the talking to camera stuff, I was like, hey, it'd be kind of cool is if you had a mural here. And they were like, yeah, we can do a mural. Do we have to pay you any extra money? And I was like, I'll just do the mural. But my negotiating abilities have kind of gotten better since then. But this was about 2 days of work setting up that mural. And then the motif of the notebook pattern was something, kind of indicative of freshman class, school. That's the process. So just to give you an idea of the scale, that's me in a ladder. Oh, so my theater life. So for a long time, or actually about 2 years, I was working at AKA. And this is my real first foray into entertainment. And it was Broadway, right? And the great thing about Broadway is that there's a huge variety for you to work on. The craftsmanship and the skill it takes to execute, even on a pitch level, is kind of unlike a lot of anything I've ever seen. And it felt like school all over again. Like being here at SVA within the MFA program, it was very much a hot box of creativity, where you're thinking about yourself, thinking about your process, thinking about what you can do, what you can execute, and then being in a place like AKA, where you're forced to create. And this is work that has never seen the light of day, or at least wasn't utilized commercially. So we're cranking in order to sell something where even at the sell, it has to feel real, right? So talk about pivot. If something, if the brief was that something had to feel like 18th century Russia, you made it feel like 18th century Russia, And for this show, this is Finding Neverland, the musical with Kelsey Grammer. I think it was around 2013 or 2012, maybe. It's going to breeze through some posters. Here's Titanic, the musical. I think to the right, we were working with Ricardo Vecchio at the time. Me and the ECD there, Bashan Akar, was a good friend of mine. And I remember this day when we were working on Titanic, it was like 48 hours of just like comp after comp after comp after comp, and everything had to feel different. Hamlet and St. Joan, and this is with Jillian Bedell here on the left. To the right's Gloria with the Vineyard Theater, and that's by Union Square. Three Penny Opera, this is Atlantic Theater Company. And oh yeah, it's David Mamet's company, Atlantic Theater. King Kong, the musical, which I actually think is coming to Broadway now, but at the time we were pitching for it because it was about to come from Australia. So to the left, we were like, how do we do the Cats version of the poster? You know, so like the Phantom of the Opera, the iconic Broadway. So it's white, blue, and black, right? And then to the right is how do we do the the grand film spectacle version of the poster? And it's funny because I look at the posters with The Rock from Rampage, where it's just The Rock looking up at the sky, and then there's a big gorilla head to his right. I just keep thinking about this King Kong Broadway poster. Here's The Heart of Robin Hood, and we worked with a great illustrator, Jonathan Bartlett, on this one. This is also a pitch. And to the right is an illustration that I did. So just two very different illustration aesthetics here. So this story I like to tell, it's about Macbeth. I'm not going to tell you a story about Macbeth, but I'm going to tell you the story about the way this key art came about. So the way that a lot of Broadway works is that there are only so many theaters in New York, right? So many theaters in Broadway. So the second a theater opens up, another show like rushes right in to take the theater. So there are a lot of shows that have been pitched, sold, or ready to go theoretically that sit in the queue for a couple years. This show was Macbeth, starring Alan Cumming, and he had kind of taken a break from Broadway after a really successful stint with Cabaret. And then he was going to come back to do Macbeth. And he did it at the Lincoln Center. And they were about to take it to Broadway proper, right? So we get a brief that, hey, the show's, we locked into theater, Alan Cumming's down, but now the tickets have to go on sale like yesterday. So we had to develop an entire key art look within 24 hours, right? And all we had was the name of the show, Macbeth, and we had a photo of Alan Cumming by the photographer Albert Watson, who is a legend, and that was literally it. So we just proceeded to crank through like any way, or like so many looks that all utilized the exact same toolkit, and the one North Star from an aesthetic level was that American Horror Story on FX. Like they were still in the first couple seasons, so it was like that psych ward aesthetic, and it was a one-man show that existed in a psych ward. So we were thinking, okay, well we can kind of take it there, so it feels like this is a manila folder of his file, right? And then yeah, something wicked this way comes, which is a line from Macbeth. We all know Macbeth, right? So that's the Shakespearean element of it all is a talking point. So we just, from that point, it was all just composition. It was like head, center, head off to the side, line to the left, and then something purely typographic leading towards logo. So if you ever see a Broadway poster or a Broadway one sheet, it's often a variation of this composition. And then that's where we landed. Something a little bit cleaner, was very simple, Alan Cumming with the Macbeth logo, and then the little blood crown, kind of a little bit of a Basquiat reference as well, just to add a little bit of energy. And that's him on Jimmy Fallon. All right, so one of my big projects over at AKA was rebranding Stomp. And Stomp, if you guys don't know, it's a show that looks like it's from the 90s. And it was originated in London, and it exists at the Orpheum Theater downtown. And it's a lot of people in denim beating on trash cans, right? So that's that's what the look is, and we had to pare it all down. And what we did with this was we took the aesthetic of performers on the outside of the logo, simplified it, put them inside the logo. And then also it was for the 20th anniversary, so we put established in 1994 NYC, also to kind of lean into the Supreme reference, the Barbara Kruger reference, bring it more of like a downtown New York thought. More posters. All right, so I'm going to show you some work from Hamilton from a couple years ago. This is for activation with Hamilton and American Express. This is purely typographic. This is with the agency Momentum. They're an experiential agency downtown. And they wanted to do something that would help launch the American Express Platinum Card using lyrics from Hamilton. So over the course of a couple of weeks, I just developed these simple graphics that were all purely typographic but expressive, but using lines from the show, like a place where orphan immigrants can leave their fingerprints and rise up. Especially immigrants, the immigration conversation is very hot right now, but it's also something that's very important to me, especially at this time. So it was a big honor to work on this. That's the way it lived in the space. More lyrics, and this one took forever. These are for a series of doors, and that took forever to really lay out to get everything fitting within the space. That's just a look at what the event space looked like, get a sense of scope. Performers, photo op, American Express Platinum. All right, so I'm just gonna breeze through some images now. This is some imagery photography with Udo Kier, who's a bad guy from Blade. And he lives in Palm Springs. It's for his magazine called Adult Magazine. And this is an opportunity to really dip into a photo set with someone who I admire. And he had done a lot of work with Lars von Trier's, kind of one of his muses. And this was shot by Ahmed Klink, who's a great photographer, with Sunday Afternoon. And we shot this all through Palm Springs. We want to position him as a cowboy or as someone who was living in a private life, but also publicly. And then we did a bit of a film with Chris Merck. And that was with Chris Merck, who is a great filmmaker, doing a lot of great videos. I just want to breeze through this. This is a video that I did for Coke Red and Queen. It's for an unreleased track that Freddie Mercury had done, about 7 minutes long, and this was about 2 weeks of just feeding still frames and imagery to a group of 7 animators over at Humble TV. And the way that this came about in my life was that Coke Red wanted to do a series of music videos with several artists, and Queen being one of them, that all were about AIDS awareness, right? And then the challenge of this was that it was all animated. It was about 7 minutes, and it was a lyric video. So I just want to show a little bit of that too.
Your heart again. Yeah, your heart again. Let me in your heart again.
All right, so I didn't want to cut that off too soon, but that is about 7 minutes. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the process of that. Was that it was very intense, and I know that Apollo, who is an animator, I'm going to show some of your work too. I am very sensitive to the world of animators now because, man, I could not do it. But it was a really good experience, and I fully encourage you to check out the rest of the video. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my Nike work right now. So for Nike, what happened was I was in a car coming from the office, and I literally just incorporated a business, right? My own personal LLC, with the intent of kind of striking out on my own and doing some work here in New York, as my own entity. And then someone gives me a call and says, "Hey, Rich, would you be interested in working at Nike?" And I'm like, whoa, what does that even mean, right? So the ball starts rolling, and then all of a sudden I'm working in the young athletes category in Portland, Oregon, working on footwear. So the way that that organization works, without getting too much into it, without getting into crazy NDAs and stuff, is that they work on a 2-year design track, typically, right? And the storytelling really centers around the story of the athlete. And for us, our North Star and our athlete was the kid, and we wanted to really get in the head of a kid who's probably like 13, 14, like he's starting to discover fashion, starting to discover overt storytelling, and started to, was discovering themselves within a sports space as well. So I'm just going to show you some footwear that I was very fortunate to work on. These are the Halloween foam posits. This is a jack-o'-lantern graphic. Worked with John Kosnick on this over the Nike team. And the graphic also glows in the dark. It's really cool seeing these out in the world. These are for Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's favorite food is mac and cheese. So we made a mac and cheese shoe, and this is the box we presented it to Kyrie Irving with. So it's a silver swoosh, and the cheese is melting on the logo at the tongue top. That took about 3 months of development, just that little piece. There's a sock liner graphic. Here he is wearing them in game against the Celtics, ironically, who he plays for now. These are the Cocoa Beaches from the LeBron 14s. The story about this is that LeBron, when he was a young kid, went from Akron, Ohio to Florida. And shout out to my friend Andrew Parkman as well, who was an amazing color designer over at Nike. I worked with on this. LeBron played against 75 teams, and that's where the 7 versus 75 graphic is. I'll show you right there. So that's the storytelling on the tongue top. That's the map from Akron to Cocoa Beach, and that's representative of an actual map. So the storytelling, especially with these shoes, and especially when you hit a price point of over $100 for a kid, like, you know, we really want to add value and really want to be able to tell the story through the visuals, through the construction, through the engineering, through the graphics, through the colors. And these colors were taken specifically from Cocoa Beach in Florida. And these shoes, you know, you're hitting up to $150. So you want to make sure that the parent and the kid are really happy with it. Sandblasted swoosh. Just a Kid from Akron on the inside tongue. This is a wrestling pack. When LeBron James won his championship with the Cavs, he was wearing an Ultimate Warriors t-shirt. So we wanted to do something that was special and related to wrestling. So we did a wrestling pack, and to the left, that's the Ultimate Warrior, or inspired by the Ultimate Warrior. In the middle is inspired by the Undertaker, and to the right, it's inspired by Ric Flair. So we did a lot of graphics, paid attention to a lot of the colors. 23 is his number. We had specific graphics that were in the inside that all related to the wrestler. And then on the back, it said Heavyweight Championship. We did a paisley pattern for the Ric Flairs. We did a lightning bolt graphic for the Undertaker. And then the gold swoosh is meant to symbolize the urn that the Undertaker would come out with, or the pallbearer would come out with, rest in peace. And then the dead eyes. Then that's the three next to each other. And then every graphic had its specific hit that related from the inside and the outside, and they all said heavyweight champ on it. So it'd be the fist for the Ultimate Warrior when you shake the ropes. Then you have the lightning bolt for the Undertaker, and then you have the diamond because Ric Flair just does like that. These are a pair of shoes I'm especially proud of that were related to a classic Penny Hardaway ad from 22 years ago. And then this is an ad presumably done by White and Kennedy, where it says, "Hey Penny, show me how to play ball. I can do it, will ya?" Yada, yada, yada. Done in a childish scroll. And I had seen this in the Nike archives, and I thought that would be kind of cool to make a shoe out of, right? So I hand traced the pattern, or hand traced those words, and then I put them on shoes. And then they became the #1 kid shoe according to Hypebeast Kids last year, which is really cool. Then we took it all the way down to toddler. That's what the small shoes are. So we had the graphic repeat with the exact same words that were derivative of the original ad. We'd sit it on the shank inverse, and that's what this piece is here, the shank. And then it would sit also a full pattern to the left and the right. We had stitch graphics on the back. We also had the little Chris Rock doll, the little Penny doll. We had that graphic on the inside. That's an existing logo. And then this view is called the toe down. If you ever hear the phrase toe down, that's what that view is. And then on the lateral side, a little bit of a shoe terminology. The lateral side is the side of the shoe that faces outward. And then the medial side is the side of the shoe that faces inward. So on the lateral side, we had individual graphics. So it would say, "Hey, hey, Penny," on both lateral sides. So it would always be "Hey, hey, Penny" facing out, and then "Hey, Penny" facing back. All right, so on the last step, MTV, the last leg of our journey. So I'm going to show you a couple of things here. And my current position right now is a VP of Design at MTV. I've been there for a little over a year now. It's kind of amazing, actually, and a little bit of a dream come true. And the way that we work within my division is that we help create the look and feel of the marketing and promotion and the ads and the commercials for the shows. Right? So I'm going to show you through a couple of things, and then I'll show you something big. So something we did very recently was rethink MTV Cribs, right? So this is an example of a logo development. So MTV Cribs is a classic MTV property where typically you would go to a celeb's home, they'd show you around the house, and you'd have a lot of fun, and that'd be it. So the aesthetic originally was more of a blueprint vibe, right? And then this is something that was done on Snapchat, which also feels very blueprinty, using a Helvetica look, which is part of the MTV brand look. And also the shout out to Martin Salazar as well. And Martin Salazar is our art director who worked on MTV Cribs as well. And also shout out to Tim Livesey and also Apollo, one of our animators over here. And Tim Livesey is our director of motion, and Apollo's also one of our MTV animators. Something that we do when we're doing something like this is that we look at a competitive landscape, and then we get into actual logo development. So we try things that are modern, where we have something that feels like an open space plan, but that feels akin to the Heritage logo. And we try different lockups as well. This is the standard logo. Here's what we call a bug version of the logo. Have a couple different lockups and a couple different iterations of where the MTV can sit in relation to the sub-brand name. Here's another look. And then here are more looks, which we wanted to essentially recreate the logo or redraw the logo so it felt like even closer connection to the original property. More variations of the same. What if we put it in a container box? And how do we make sure that the MTV brand sits within the space properly? Here's the most simplest of versions. This is where we landed with the logo, which is simplified redraw of the classic Cribs logo. So there you go. That's how it lives in animation. All right. So here's Wild 'N Out. And Wild 'N Out is a MTV property that's about to hit its 12th season, which is amazing. It stars Nick Cannon, and it's been on for a long time. It has a long history and also a lot of different looks, right? So shout out also to Cecile Kaplan, who's one of our art directors, as well as also Joe Cosentino, who's a great designer. And also Paulo worked on this, and also Tim Livesey, and a lot of the great MTV team. So just to show you, sometimes when we'll develop the look and feel of a property that's had a long life, we'll take a look at the last couple seasons. So here's season 9, right, which kind of has like a Broadway marquee look, where there's imagery and typography, and then Nick, the talent, and then season 10, which is leaning into the X of it all, like as in the Roman numeral X as in 10. It's like black and white photography, and then kind of like a very New York, like thank you, thank you, thank you type of repeating look, right? Also, they were shooting in Brooklyn, so it was about coming to New York and having it feel like a reinvention of the property. So for this season, this is for season 11, by the way, the theme was kind of a football thought, and also like kind of the track had changed, and it felt very drumline-y. So we were thinking like, how do we take it into a space of football? So these are the boards that we developed internally. So just in case the terminology isn't hitting, so we'll develop boards which are like one step past mood board, where you're essentially building the look and the feel of what your piece will end up being. So we wanted to lean into something that felt like sports. Also, the season was coming on the heels of the NBA Finals. We were looking at a lot of NBA, football, baseball graphics, and the intensity of Nick with the battle energy. And then this is what it looks like in promo. And these are the boards that we ended up getting approved. All right, so on to the last bit, TRL. All right, so when I first got to MTV, the first week I was briefed with rebranding TRL, which is crazy, right? So when we all think of TRL, we think of this, right? We think of Carson Daly, we think of Britney Spears, and we think of screaming teenagers in Times Square, right? So the challenge is, how do you take a brand that has a lot of history already, everyone has a predetermined thought of what it is and what it could be, then how do you take it to the next level? And also for this, worked with Jen Epstein, who was our motion director at the time, and also Sasha Temple, who was our art director for this. And like the team on this was very, it was large and also small. It was like a family, and we were all holding hands together trying to maintain this beast while we were building this entire system. So again, for something like this, which is considered a tentpole level project, we go through a massive logo exploration, right? And also a shout out to essentially my boss, Thomas Berger as well, who was really like a guiding force. He's a SVP for MTV VH1 and logo for design, and he was really like held my hand through a lot of this because I was really in uncharted territory, and it was a challenge for sure, and especially because we had gone through like 40 logos. This is even all of it, but this to show you the sheer variety of work that we've gone through. Right, this is the logo that we landed on. Here's the way it's constructed if you care about such things, right? So we land on a logo, right? So after that, we have to promote it at the end of last year's VMAs, which are hosted by Katy Perry. And we had to essentially create a promo around a property that we had no idea what it was going to be yet. So all we had were the iconic photo booth photos from the original property. And we had a classic Britney Spears track that that brought back good vibes and good memories, and we created a promo that utilized what we had, and I think it came out pretty good. So this is the very first TRL promo from a little under a year ago.
I like that. This is Britney Spears.
Right. Go, girl.
Let's get this countdown started. Beyonce is one of the biggest celebrities on the planet.
Today though, what's up?
Back on the countdown.
TRL starts now.
One more time.
All right. So a lot of colors, a lot of bright colors, leaning to the vibrancy, and then we actually start developing the brand, and then we kept it within a black, white, and yellow world. It's shifted since then, so now it's a morning show, so now it's more of an orangey sunset or sunrise vibe, but then this was the look for about a year. We go into color blocking exploration. This is what the system looks like. We leaned into Druck. We want to see what it looks like with talent, photography of talent, because talent will come through every day, right? And you have to build these laundry spots that promote the show every day. We also built an icon system, fully illustrative. Ben Boosie, which was one of our designers at the time, he really built this thing out. And also Lindsay Schaffheiser, she was great. Like they really built out the iconography and gave us a toolkit to work with. We also work with Kate Morris, who's amazing legend, who has a studio out in the UK. She did a lot of our animation work in the very beginning, also helped build out of a lot of our patterns, and like really the look and feel, and added that little bit of energy that the property needed. And for a property like this, no one can truly take ownership over anything. You know, at the end of the day, you're working with a whole team. Someone might be on the other side of the world. Someone might be, someone might be split between 2 or 3 different agencies. You might have an asset happening with one place, you send it over to another place, you get it back, you mess with it, and you send it back to another place. Like it's one big mess. So whenever you go through a credits list of something like this, it goes a mile long. And then we ended up winning a bronze cube with the Art Directors Club for this. We looked at patterns, radial patterns. Shout out to Patrick Malloy. He worked on this. There's DC Young Fly, who was a host at the time. Here's some out of home. These are the window shades underneath the Lion King in Times Square. We did an ice cream truck. We did a statue, and this thing rotated too. We did a big billboard. I don't even want to know how much this thing cost. There's Playboy Cardi. In a performance space, we did 2 performance spaces in the middle of Times Square. And the last thing I'm going to show you is a short video that just shows what the branding, illustration, photography system looks like in action on air.
They said this would never happen. MTV, Total Request Live.
Y'all know what time it is. It's TIL.
I was gone for a minute, but I'm back now. I'ma show him how to act. Okay, now picture little Bobby, just a younger run around with his man's hammer in his hand, feeling like a man. Run, mother, run for the pole, get the gun, put it to your brain like. Everybody know you ain't about it. Everything you talk about, I know I can live without it. Red light, stop, green light, go. Everything ain't what it seemed like, mother, I know. Hold up, what you mean? Where you been? Been in. This is merely the beginning again. What you been living in? The box under the bridge, like Anthony Kiedis, looking for something to complete us and maybe lead us. The leaders, hell of a long way from equal as how they treat us. Body of a builder with the mind of a fetus. Turn on the television and see the vision they feed us. And I wish I could erase that face facts. Everybody people, everybody bleed, everybody needs some, everybody love, everybody know. Okay, I was gone for a minute, but I'm back now.
It's official. TIL is here, baby.
All right, that's it. Thank you. All right, I know we have a little bit of time left. I can take some questions. Also, do I need the microphone for this?
You've made a number of references to drawing.
Yes.
What drawing tools do you use? Are you drawing on a Cintiq, or are you using actual pens and paper? What's your methodology?
For me, I typically use a Wacom tablet, and then I draw right into Photoshop. That's kind of what I've become very comfortable with because I just like the undo, you know? I used to draw with very traditional tools in the very beginning, and just being a digital person, I've leaned more into a Wacom tablet, into Photoshop, just based on personal preference. Although lately, I've been doing the thing where I will take I'll be in Instagram stories, and then I'll take a photo of a black background, just put it against my hand, and then I'll draw in the app in order to save it for myself in case I just don't have access to anything. So sometimes I give notes in that way, or it's like, here, make it look like this. I'll take a photo of something, I'll just take it in there, and I'll just use Instagram actually to give notes in a certain way, just like whatever is the fastest way, the quickest way, and it's whatever allows me shorthand. So when I draw, it's usually in some sort of digital form, if that makes any sense.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Hi, my question is more about how you started and where you are at right now. So when it comes to being an illustrator as well as a designer, it can get a little bit confusing when you're trying to establish yourself as an illustrator. So I just want to know how that is and how you've handled both of the things and are kind of going on about it.
So if anyone didn't hear that, the question was about, it was about the getting started and separating oneself from as an illustrator versus a designer. And for me, I've always associated myself with illustration because that's how I'm classically trained. But I illustrate like a designer, if that makes any sense, because for me, I want to be able to move the pieces and shift the pieces around and be able to control them. I'm a bit of a control freak, right? So my thoughts about that are, I separate my illustration life as, I think of it as expressive design, and where I am, I'm part of a conversation, or I'm crafting something that doesn't exist within the typical constraints of what one thinks of design, specifically within grid form or even from a Eurocentric vision of design. And then when I put on my designer hat, I feel very much within a branding world, a logo creation world, a typographic world, and something that's more based in a system. And then for me, illustration isn't based about a system. Illustration is about a process. So it gets a little muddy, for sure. And in the beginning, I grew up drawing, so I would just draw things and then be like, here it is. That'd be the expectation. But in my desire to expand my abilities and expand my skill set, I wanted to be able to start from the beginning and take it to the logical end. And by actually living within the world of design, I was able to take it to that logical end. So design gave me a bigger spectrum of it. I don't know if that answers your question necessarily, but there are subtleties within the skill sets and subtleties within the mentality. But for me, I'm very much an expressive designer, and when I say that, I feel like that's holistic of several abilities and skill sets, if that makes any sense. For sure. Andre.
Hello.
What's up?
So throughout your life and journey so far, you mentioned earlier that you had a lot of pivots. Is there any pieces of advice, whether it's life or professional, that you'd give your younger self?
Ooh.
I know it's a...
Yeah. Ooh.
Looking back,
Totally. I think that, well, I don't believe in advice, really, but that's a me thing. But that said, the one piece of advice that I would give myself is I would actually tell myself that it's going to be okay. Because I think you have so much anxiety coming out of school, and you have so much anxiety in the very beginning of your career, because like potential is unlimited, right? You could do almost anything, you could go almost anywhere and do almost anything, and who knows where the media landscape is going to land, or even the current creative landscape. And I graduated from SVA in 2009, and it was right at the beginning of the economic crash. So I was super scared. And before that, I was working at the mall, and I just had a real normal 9-to-5 job. So the landscape was really uncertain when I got out of grad school. And I only had a small handful of clients, and who knew? So I would tell myself, it's going to be okay, and keep working at it, and you'll land somewhere. I think it's really persistence, perseverance, and the willingness to continue that most people that are successful utilize. So that's kind of where I'd say. Hope that answers your question, man.
You can't hear me from here, right? It's just like mic.
It's just to record. Yeah.
Okay, so
you'll have
I'm
to
gonna
speak up
yell.
a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So basically, my question is, working at Nike and everything, like you've worked with 3D, like physical form.
Yes.
Have you ever been interested in exploring that field?
I'm sorry, could you say the last part again?
Have you ever been interested to explore that field of like actual 3D and designing in 3D?
Oh, physical three-dimensional
Yeah.
forms? Oh yeah, totally. And of course, working at Nike, you do explore design within a three-dimensional space. I'm a tactile person, so by nature I like to touch things and mold them and shape them and change them in some way. I have yet to truly attack something from a full three-dimensional space. I guess being at Momentum and working experientially has kind of allowed me to do that as well. But I haven't fully pursued that. That's something that I would like to. I've done pins and stuff, and patches and stuff. But yeah, like in terms of like really pushing that space, I have yet to. I'd like to.
I have a question. There's
Mr.
an
Fox.
awful lot of play and confidence in taking chances that you've had over the breadth of your career, and it's obviously just kind of starting. I wonder if you might be able to speak. Was there a defining moment, or a level of achievement, or some milestone that you hit where that confidence and like play came through, where it wasn't so much fear, it was just you were just there and able to improv? I wonder if you might be able to kind of speak about that process or experience.
Sure. When I was there and I was able to improv. I think from an achievement level, one of the big milestones of my career was winning Young Guns, for sure, with the Art Directors Club, because I think that kind of gave people a level of trust with me. And speaking of pivots, that allowed me to kind of ask for a couple more things, get a little bit more trust, and be able to push my work further, because I had a little bit of clout with the award. So I never don't thank the Art Directors Club for allowing me into their family and all that. When it comes to the improv and kind of pushing that space, let me think. Okay, so in 2009, 2010, I had just graduated SVA, right? and I had a couple clients here and there, and then somehow I answered an ad on Craigslist, right? I was looking for any job within the creative space, because I was tired of sitting at home and just being on the search. I wanted to be in an office. I want to feel office vibes, right? So a creative director named Rajan Mehta, who was one of the founders of Surface to Air, right? He had come to New York, come back from New York. He had come to New York back from Japan, I believe. And also David Komerick, who was also one of the creative directors there. And they were like, hey, we need a designer to help us with the pitch. It was for Alcatel mobile phones. And Alcatel mobile phones at the time was a piece of Lucent Technologies, and they were trying to bring a low-cost Android handset to the United States. By low cost, it was like a $99 Android handset, right? Like a phone. And their main competitors were Huawei, that Hawaiian brand or that Korean brand, I forget. I apologize. But that was their main competitor, and iPhones hadn't really hit. So I jumped in on the pitch. It just so happened that the pitch, also probably what my skill set at the time kind of guided it there, but the pitch involved a lot of illustration, and we ended up winning it, right? So the pitch ends up getting us $500,000 for a year. There were literally only 3 of us, and there was a producer, so like 4 of us-ish, and we had to create all these deliverables, and we built an agency around the winnings of this pitch. And they said, hey, Rich, you want to be the lead designer at the agency that we're putting together called Daggernaught and Associates. And then they set up offices in Union Square. And I said, hey, I'm down, I need the job, but instead of calling me lead designer, call me the art director. Call me the art director, I'll do the exact same job, I will take the exact same pay, but I just want to be able to call myself that so I can lean into what this role truly is. And then that was my first art director job. And I did it for a whole year, helped build a team, hired designers. Like Clay Roddery, who also came from the MFA program, he's a great illustrator. And Yu Byun, she was another designer there, and she's awesome. She's doing books, and she's crushing it right now. and that was like the first time I felt like I asked for something I didn't quite deserve, but I got it. So probably the biggest lesson I learned at the time was that always ask for a little bit more, always try to negotiate a little bit more, and if you constantly also, Andre, that'd be the other piece of advice I would give myself when I was a kid. I would always ask for a little bit more than you probably deserve, because it's a litmus test to see how serious the other party is. But also, if you keep doing that, then you just tend to get more. So that's probably my biggest learning from having to improv contract negotiation.
It seems like you've had like so much success and like moments where people like ask you to work on something, and I'm just wondering, like, because also it seems like you're really great at being able to get a lot of work done, even like your own personal work, like waking up at 5 a.m. to do an image every day is, I think I don't think that's something that a lot of people would be able to necessarily do very easily. So my question's like kind of two parts, is like, one is, did you always have this ability to focus and sort of corral yourself into having such a productive practice? And the second part is, was there ever a time you had to face a lot of rejection before you got into the part where you're having all of these different great jobs right now?
Oh, rejection is like the biggest part. Like I felt like I was just constantly being rejected the first few years. And I feel like that kind of hardens you, and also kind of helps build a samurai sword mentality about your skill set. And by that I mean, I use that metaphor a lot. Like the way that you create a sword is that you fold metal upon metal. So the metal constantly folds in upon itself, and it gets stronger with every single fold, right? And for me, the rejection was the fold. And I remember that I would send my portfolio to the New Yorker since 2006. I would send them my portfolio every 7 or 8 months, right? And then you get a nice little card that's like, oh, thank you for your interest in the New Yorker, blah, 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 blah. It's like really condescending and pretentious, because it's like a really thick paper. And I remember one, yeah, exactly. And I remember the third or fourth time, the card I got back had a little note on it. It said, "Hey, Rich, great stuff. Send your portfolio again in a little bit," right? So it was like after being rejected like a handful of times, getting that one little bit of encouragement, it's like, you know, it's like drowning and then getting your first breath of fresh air. It's amazing. So. Like for me, the rejection was a big part, and then the persistence helped give me the ability to just kind of, you know, look past rejection. So for me, I don't look at rejection anymore. I really look at the acceptance, you know, and it helps you break over the hump. I think to answer the first part of your question about the fortitude to and the discipline. That was, I think that's always kind of been in my DNA. Like I'm a lot about time management, and I haven't always been an early riser, but I care a lot about physical fitness. Like go to the gym a lot. Like I like to work out. I like to specifically allot my time, and I also like to. Throw obstacles in my way in order to get something else to happen. And it's kind of a little bit of a brain hack for me. Like just a little bit of an anecdote about me getting prepared for this week. I'm on vacation this week, technically, from MTV, although I did go into the office twice this week, so brownie points. But in order for me to physically get my head in the space of finishing this keynote presentation, I was texting one of my best friends, Ahmed, who I did all that Udo stuff, right? He's a photographer. I was texting Ahmed. I was like, hey, man, what if we did a photo shoot? And I was at MoMA PS1 on Saturday at their party. So I was just like out. And I was like, oh, I was looking at all this art. I was like, hey, what if we did this photo shoot? We did this crazy stuff, blah, 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 throwing all these other ideas. Essentially, with the intent of throwing an idea in the mix that would compact my week into an insane place where one of the things had to fall off, you know? So So long story short, the photo shoot didn't happen because I used it as a brain hack to say, oh, I got to do this other stuff. That photo shoot can't possibly happen. I have to do all this other shit. So that's, yeah, exactly. So that was the part about waking up. So I would wake up in the morning and do the piece of art in order to get my head ready to go to the gym. Because then I'd do the thing for an hour, then I go to the gym for like 30, 40 minutes. And those two like are intimately connected because about exercising my brain space, my skill set, and also my body. And then it'd get me mentally ready to go to work. So then at work, I would show up and I was already 2-3 steps ahead of everyone, and I wasn't slow. I was there, I was like, I've already been creative, I've already physically pushed myself, and I've set parameters for myself over the course of the day. So I've already accomplished goals. So if you guys show up to the office and you haven't done goals yet, then I don't know. And so that was a long way of answering your question, but
it was very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I can do a couple more questions. I don't know how much time we have. I know we're running a little bit over, but okay, cool.
Just kind of stemming from this previous question about goals, you have such a wide range of work, like from, editorial to film to, it's amazing. But how much of that was planned for yourself? Like, oh, these are goals that I want to set, or like certain achievements that I want to make career-wise. Like I want to get the New York Times bit. I want to get like the film bit. Like were they all planned, or were they more like you were just doing your own thing and opportunities just arise? Like how much of that was goal planned and how much of that was kind of improvised and opportunities just arose for you?
Oh, sure. In the very beginning, to answer that question, in the very beginning, I had a couple of people and artists that I was really admiring at the time. And specifically within the illustration space, I was looking a lot at Josh Cochran. And Josh Cochran is an amazing illustrator, is very expressive, and I looked at him as he's a great dude. I looked at him as an individual whose career I felt was achievable, was somehow tangible to me, made things tangible, right? So I wanted to get into the New York Times because that was a path that felt real. I also he had done a piece for Swindle. I've never told the story. He'd done a piece for Swindle, so I was like, oh, let me see what I can do in Swindle, right? And then of course he'd worked in New York. I was like, oh, let me try to get the New Yorker. It felt like those were milestones that would help me in the very beginning. And then your style develops, and then you change, your brain chemistry changes, and all of a sudden, you ever seen the movie Finding Forrester? Finding Forrester was a follow-up. Sorry, just follow my tangent here. Finding Forrester was Gus Van Sant's follow-up to what is it? The Matt Damon movie. What is it? Matt Damon's first movie with Ben Affleck, where he's a really smart MIT student. Good Will Hunting, yes. So it was his follow-up to Good Will Hunting, where Sean Connery plays a J.D. Salinger type author, and then he mentors this kid from the inner city in New York, and they somehow intersect in each other's worlds. And the kid's a really talented writer, but he has no direction. So Sean Connery tells this kid, he's like, you're a really talented writer. I'm paraphrasing. So you're a really talented writer. Take my manuscripts. Start here, and then you'll find your own voice. So I kind of took that philosophy to heart. So for me, it was about having a place that felt tangible as a start, and then once I got my motor running, then I knew that I could keep it going. So in the beginning, I had a couple heroes that I really admired, and then after that, it became about goal setting in a space of like kind of like a personal bucket list. So I wanted to work with XXL because I loved XXL. I bought it at Pathmark when I go grocery shopping with my mom, and to hit that milestone was great. I loved Slam magazine because I'd buy it at 7-Eleven growing up, you know. Working at Nike was a dream come true because I'd been a sneakerhead since since high school. I remember working at Barnes and Noble and having no money, but still buying a pair of sneakers every week. I was like, what was I doing, right? I was like, I don't even buy that many sneakers now, right? So, like, once I really got my motor running, then it was about hitting like the things that I'd really wanted. So I've been very fortunate now to be able to ask for things that I want. I don't always get them, but going back to another question, I can start asking more often than not. You know. I hope that makes some sense.
You.
Oh, as a little bit side, what do I want? Oh, I don't even know. A nap, probably.
So you alluded to positioning earlier when you referred to the cowboy film and then the Nike children's sneakers. What role would you say positioning has in the design process and art direction?
Oh, what role does positioning have?
Yeah, or like how important?
Within the creation of certain. I would say that I think positioning is an open-ended term. I think my interpretation of positioning is the context with which you would either sell something, or the way that, or the context with which you would speak of something. I think for the Udo film, like that cowboy-inspired film with Chris Merck and Ahmed Klink, the way we positioned that was we just want to show Udo in his element. Essentially, we were just going to all his houses in Palm Springs, right, and shooting on site, and we wanted to lean into his personality because he has those really deep, intense eyes, and those are really iconic in their own way. So we wanted to play into every strength that we had at our disposal, because also we were on a shoestring budget, you know. So that was our positioning there, and it was self-funded too. So Ahmed shot it, Chris shot motion, and then I AD'd it as well as helped produce it and help fund the thing. We all put money into it, and you know, we helped sell it through to adults. And for what was the other example that you brought up? Sorry.
The Nike children's sneakers.
Oh, right.
Kind of like getting in the mind of the kid and like how they live their life and stuff.
For that exercise was so the positioning mindset is for the Nike young athletes footwear, right? For me, really was about wrapping my head into what their mentality was from a brand, and also from the actual consumer, from the kid perspective. Because for the kid, you are probably like really getting introduced to taste, right? So you're getting your pairs of sneakers that you actually like, and you know why you like them, because they feel good. You probably you're running in them, you're playing in them, you're probably playing a sport on a competitive level, and you feel some type of way about it, right? You have preferences. From a brand perspective, it was always fascinating to me the idea of growing with the brand. So the concept of giving a kid a swoosh when they're really young, and then having that be a memory, and then having that kid grow up within that. Like, these are all kid colorways and kid styles. Although it's funny, the Hey Penny shoes, like I look at my Instagram on the Hey Penny hashtag, there's like so many young females in Asia with the sneakers. It's so fascinating the way that those things work out. But the way that we would work with it was the creation of nostalgia and building in nostalgia, because the way the cycle works now, the cycles are so much tighter than they used to be. Like those colorways are going to be retroed within the next 10 to 15 years with an adult colorway, because that consumer by that point will be 20, 25, right? And like me now, and full transparency, I'm turning 37 this year, right? So I look at colorways and styles that I had when I was 18, 19, 20, first making meaningful purchases with my own money. And those are purchases that I want to emulate now as an adult from a more elevated space. So even working at MTV, like, you know, you look at those properties like Cribs, especially. You'll look at TRL. You'll look at something like the VMAs or the Movie Awards, which we all have memories of. And even something as iconic as MTV News, like the way that those inform our childhoods as well as our adult lives, like that nostalgia cycle that's brand building. So from a positioning standpoint, I always leaned into the strength of the brand and always wanted to find ways to enrich it from by taking something that's familiar and then turning it something that's new. And that's always fascinated me. Cool.
So much.
Thanks, guys.